Today's lesson is Plus Talk, getting in touch with friends and family. Hello, everybody. My name is Roger.
And my name is Helen.
And today we're going to continue talking about how you can get in touch with your friends and family, or how you can keep in touch with your friends and family. And last time, of course, we kind of listened in or eavesdropped on a couple of conversations that were going on. We had Grace and Mia, and I guess they were complaining about someone's boyfriend. I think girls probably have those kinds of conversations quite a lot. And then we had a conference call, or a video conferencing call, between John and Mia, and they added Grace to the discussion.
Yes, and today we're going to look at some other situations related to video conferencing, telephoning. These are situations that come up quite often because people are using technology more and more to communicate with each other. I remember a time for me not too long ago when the idea of being able to see somebody in a screen while you are talking to them on the phone was pure fantasy. You know, it was something that was probably going to happen in the far, far future. But lo and behold, we are living in a time when it's possible to have video conferencing software and software like Line and other pieces of software that allow us to communicate with each other even better and even more conveniently.
Yep, it's nice to have video calls, but sometimes when I'm talking to a friend or a family member on a video call, I think, okay, for the first minute, it's kind of cool. There you are. That's how things look. I get it. Now let's just have a regular audio-only conversation. I often just turn off the camera at that point, but that's just me. Today we've got a couple of different conversations. We're going to be calling someone back, and then we're going to be having technical difficulties. Someone's signal is going to be breaking up. They're going to be having bad reception. So let's talk about the first conversation here, calling someone back. Let's listen first, and then we'll talk about it.
3. Calling someone back. Grace is discussing the changes to the group assignment with John.
No, like I said, I'll be doing that part now. I was calling to see if you'd...
Hold on, you're breaking up. Can you repeat that, please?
Huh? Ugh, I can't make out anything you're saying.
Sorry, I can't hear you clearly. I'll have to call you back.
After a few minutes, Grace's phone rings.
Hey, John, bad signal?
Yeah, I was in the parking garage in the basement of my apartment building. Reception is pretty poor down there. Anyway, what were you saying about the project?
大家好，第一部分我们看到名词 assignment 指作业、功课或是任务，像是 Your next assignment is to write an essay on the person who has influenced you the most. 你的下一项作业是写一篇短文介绍影响你最深的人。或是 Sylvia will fail the course if she doesn't finish her assignment by tomorrow. Sylvia 如果明天不完成作业就会被当掉。
So in the first conversation, calling someone back, we have Grace who is discussing the changes to the group assignment with John. So we have two characters, Grace and John, who are doing a group assignment together. And an assignment is something that you have to do as your task. So if you have to, for instance, do homework, then that homework is your assignment because the teacher assigned it to you. And here they are doing a group assignment, which is an assignment that people have to do together as a group, which is what teachers often assign their students these days.
Yeah, I remember in my first year Chinese class many years ago, we had a group assignment where we had to all come up with kind of a little play to present to the rest of the class using the limited Chinese that we had at the time. It was a group assignment. We had, I think, maybe 4 or 5 members in each group. And again, we've got a conversation between Grace and John here, and they're discussing the changes to the group assignment. Grace says, no, like I said, I'll be doing that part now. I was calling to see if you'd... So again, we're kind of entering this conversation after it began. And so here's what Grace just happens to be saying at the time. No, that's not the case. Like I said before, I'll be doing that part now. Nobody else will be doing it. It's for me. I've been assigned that part. I was calling to see if you'd... So yes, this was the reason I was calling, because I needed to verify something with you.
Yes, and John says, hold on, you're breaking up. And that's why Grace stopped in the middle of what she was saying, because John interrupted her. So as Grace was saying, I was calling to see if you, John interrupts by saying, hold on, you're breaking up. And here, breaking up means that the sound is not able to be heard anymore, or it's being heard only in pieces. And sound on a radio can break up. Sound on a mobile phone can break up as well if the reception is bad. So John says, hold on, you're breaking up. Can you repeat that, please? Because he wasn't able to hear what Grace was saying.
Indeed. So the signal is breaking up, or John can no longer hear Grace. Breakup can also mean a couple are no longer going steady with each other. Larry and Mavis broke up last night, for example. So Mavis is available now. Maybe you should call her up and ask her out for a date. But in this particular case, we're talking about a signal. The signal's breaking up. Can you repeat that, please? This does happen sometimes. People don't always do this as a way to pretend you're not interested in what they're saying. Gee, I can't hear you. The signal is breaking up. Can you call again later? Maybe like next week or something like that? But no, in this particular case, I think John actually wants Grace to repeat what she just said. And she says, huh? I can't make out anything you're saying. So they have a bad signal here. They have bad reception. John's signal is breaking up as well. So if you can't understand what the other person is saying, then you can say, well, I can't make out what you're saying. I can't understand. I'm just hearing bits and pieces of sounds here, and I just can't understand what you're trying to say.
Yep, you can also use make out to talk about difficulty seeing something. For instance, if you're watching a movie, you can say that you have difficulty making out the plot of the movie because you don't really understand what's going on. It's too complicated. So make out can be used for things that you hear and also things that you see. And John replies, sorry, I can't hear you clearly. I'll have to call you back. So both Grace and John are having difficulty hearing each other. And John finally suggests that he call her back. Maybe once he calls her back, the signal will be better and they will be able to hear each other better. So he hangs up.
And after a few minutes, Grace's phone rings. Okay, so they've re-established the connection. And Grace answers the phone. She answers the signal. Hey, John, bad signal? Was that a bad signal? Do we have a good signal now? And then John says, yeah, I was in the parking garage in the basement of my apartment building. So that does happen, of course. We did talk about that earlier. You can get a bad signal in various places if you're going through a tunnel, or if you're in mountainous areas, or if you're out by the ocean or something like that, you might get a bad signal. In this particular case, John was in the parking garage in the basement of his apartment building, and indeed, reception can be pretty bad in such a place.
Yes, in fact, he says, reception is pretty poor down there. Anyway, what were you saying about the project? So he's not in the parking garage anymore. He has gone to the upper level and he is now ready to continue talking about the project. So he wants to pick up the conversation again and asks Grace, what were you saying? What were you saying about the project?
Right, and they can continue their conversation now because I guess John is no longer in the basement of his apartment building. He has driven out of there, or he has come out of the basement and he's up in his apartment now, so they have better reception and they can continue their conversation. Okay, that brings us to the end of their conversation. It's time now for us to move on to part 4, when we are experiencing technical difficulties. Let's listen.
4. Experiencing technical difficulties. Mia is catching up with her friend Ethan, who is studying abroad.
I mean, it was a bit of an adjustment at first, but I'm pretty settled in now.
And what are you planning to do when... Wait a minute, your video is frozen.
That's weird. I have a good Wi-Fi connection here. Is my audio okay?
Yeah, your audio is fine. It's just the video that's choppy. Oh, never mind. It's better now. So what are you planning to do when you graduate? Will you look for a job there, or will you come back?
Actually, I'm not sure yet. Graduation still seems quite far away.
第二部分我们看到名词 adjustment， 指适应、调整或是修改。例如 When I became a vegetarian, I made many adjustments to my eating habits. 我开始吃素后，饮食习惯做了很多调整。另外将这个字去掉字尾 ment 后，就变成了动词 adjust， 表示调整、适应或是习惯。我们可以说 You can adjust the lamp to make it shine on your workstation. 你可以调整台灯，让光源照在你工作的地方。接着我们看到单字 audio， 这个字是名词，意思是声音。像是 If you listen to the audio of the speech, you will see why it was so well received. 你听了这场演讲的音档后，就会知道为什么回应这么好了。或者 The audio in this YouTube video is too quiet for me to hear clearly. 这部 YouTube 影片的声音对我来说太小声了，听不清楚。另外这个字也可以当作形容词用，指声音的或是音讯的。举例来说 The television's audio system produces clear and crisp sounds. 电视的声音系统发出清脆响亮的声音。或是 After taking my stereo in for repairs, I haven't had any audio problems. 我把音响拿去修之后，就没有任何音讯问题了。再补充一个相关单字 auditorium， A-U-D-I-T-O-R-I-U-M auditorium， 表示演讲厅或是礼堂。我们可以说 The lecture will be held in the auditorium at 6. 演讲将在6点于演讲厅举行。也可以说Our university has a large auditorium that can hold 800 people. 我们大学有一个可容纳800人的大礼堂。最后我们看到形容词 choppy， 指波浪滔滔的或是波澜起伏的。例如 The waves at this beach are really choppy, so I don't think we'll be able to water ski. 这个海滩的浪很大，所以我觉得我们不能在这里划水。另外这个字在课文是来形容视讯画面上跳上跳下的。像是 You seem a little choppy in the video conference. Please check your connection to the internet. 你在视讯会议中看起来有点断断续续的，请检查你的网络连线。再补充一个容易混淆的单字 chubby, C-H-U-B-B-Y, chubby, 意思是圆嘟嘟的或是丰满的。像是 Nick decided to start exercising after he noticed he was getting chubby. Nick 发现自己越来越圆之后，便决定开始运动。或是 Diane's a little chubby, but she's definitely not fat. Diane 有点丰腴，但她一点都不胖。
So in part 4, experiencing technical difficulties, Mia is catching up with her friend Ethan, who is studying abroad. So Mia and Ethan aren't in the same country. Ethan is studying abroad. So they are talking about their lives, their different lives in different contexts. And again, they are in the middle of a conversation. Ethan says, I mean, it was a bit of an adjustment at first, but I'm pretty settled in now. So Ethan is evidently talking about his experience moving to a foreign country, studying abroad, and he's talking about how he feels about it. And he says it was a bit of an adjustment at first. An adjustment is a change in something, usually a change for the better. So when you move abroad, when you have to live in a foreign country, your very first time, you have to make a lot of adjustments. You might have to change the way you eat, the way you sleep, and the way you interact with people so that all of these habits follow the customs of your new country. So Ethan has been making a bit of an adjustment to his new surrounding, but now he is settled in. To be settled in means to become familiar with a new situation. You can be settled into your new job, your new way of life, your new apartment. It just means to be able to be adjusted and to feel comfortable in that new situation.
Exactly. This happens a lot when we move to a new city or when we attend college or university in another town away from our hometown. We need to get used to the situation. We need to adjust, and we will feel settled in. Settle in is different from the phrase to settle down. If you're young and you're ambitious and you want to travel and move around and stuff like that, but then later on you decide to have a more permanent kind of life, you decide to settle down, okay? You probably get married, you get a full-time job someplace, you just kind of stay there and you decide that you're going to stay there for many years and perhaps even live there all the way until your retirement, then you settle down. But here, settling in just means, as Helen said, to get used to a situation, especially if you're a college student or a young person moving to a new city. Now, here's what Mia says. She's got a question for Ethan. And what are you planning to do when... Wait a minute, your video is frozen. So Mia's got another question. What are you planning to do when... Again, they're having some technical difficulties here. The signal is not clear. It is breaking up. There's a lot of static. And wait a minute, your video is frozen. This does happen sometimes when you're talking to somebody. Their voice is coming in fine, but the image on the screen is just still. It's not moving, so you have to wonder, gee, are we still connected? Should I hang up and call again?
Yep, and Ethan says, that's weird. I have a good Wi-Fi connection here. So he's in a place where Wi-Fi should not be a problem. So it's strange that the video is frozen. And he asks Mia, is my audio okay? So by audio, he means the sound that's going through his voice. So he's asking Mia, can you still hear me? Is my audio okay? And in fact, audio is usually used to refer to anything related to sound. So right now, for instance, we are doing an audio recording in the studio. And when you do video conferencing calls, you have audio and video to think about how you sound and how you look to other people.
Video does refer specifically to the image that you see on the screen, but most often video does include the sound as well. You only say audio if you need to talk about it specifically separate from video. So yes, they've got good audio, but the video is frozen. And yes, that's what Mia says. Yeah, your audio is fine. It's just the video that's choppy. Now, that's a word we can use to describe video these days, especially if you're video conferencing. The video can be choppy. It's a still, and then suddenly it changes. The person has just changed their position. They have changed their expression. Maybe that one is still, then maybe it totally disappears, and then it comes back moving really fast, then it disappears again, and then it's really slow. It's just choppy. It's just all over the place. It's not consistent.
Yep, it's not smooth, so it could be annoying. But Mia says, oh, never mind. It's better now. So what are you planning to do when you graduate? Will you look for a job there or will you come back? So it probably was just a minor glitch in the software or in the Wi-Fi system, because even though the video was choppy for a while, it got better. And Mia, she continued her conversation, her questions to Ethan about living and studying abroad. And she asks him, well, what are you going to do after you finish school, after you graduate? Are you going to look for a job there, or are you going to come back? Are you going to continue studying? So she's quite curious about Ethan.
That's the question that Mia has for Ethan. Are you going to settle down there? Are you going to stay there after you graduate, or will you come back? And here's Ethan's answer to that question. Actually, I'm not sure yet. Okay, he's still thinking about this. Graduation still seems quite far away. So graduation, of course, is the experience of graduating from a particular educational institution. Okay, so again, to graduate is the verb. I graduated from university in 1963, for example. The person who graduates is called a graduate. When you graduate is graduation. Hey, when is graduation? Oh, it's at 2 o'clock this afternoon. Don't be late.
Right. And the ideal situation for any parent is that their child will find a job after graduation. So after they finish school, after they graduate, they will be able to find a job and start making money and being independent.
Indeed. So in this particular case, Ethan has not finished his studies, and he says graduation still seems quite far away. So maybe he's only a sophomore or a junior at this particular time, or maybe he's just in his first year of graduate school. So graduation still seems quite far away. Maybe he's not going to graduate for another year or two, so he feels that he doesn't need to make this decision right away. He can think about it later. And that's the content of their conversation. But again, during their conversation, they were experiencing technical difficulties, and that can happen quite often during video conferencing calls. Does that happen to you a lot, Helen?
Well, not really, because we have pretty good Wi-Fi where I live, and I haven't had a lot of trouble with video conferencing, but I know that it could happen sometimes. And if you're having a meeting via video conferencing system, it might be very frustrating because you're in the middle of talking about something important, or maybe you're trying to strike a deal. And if you suddenly can't hear somebody, it can really affect the course of the negotiations.
Indeed, but I think most people expect that from time to time, and I think things will get better as time goes on. Okay, that brings us to the end of our discussion for today. It's time now to listen once again to Hanny.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。在课文第一部分的对话里， Grace 和 John 在讲电话，不过 Grace 的声音断断续续的， John 就说 Hold on, you're breaking up。 等等，你的声音断断续续的耶。好，这边我们是要学习片语动词 break up 的几种用法哦。第一种就是像课文用法，是表达像你在打电话的时候听不清楚，声音断断续续状态。例如 You're breaking up, I'll call you back later。 你的声音断断续续的，我等一下打电话给你。第二个，我们可以用 break up 去表达结束，使什么结束制止，或者是分解，使什么分解破碎的那种意思。那这个时候 break up 它可以当及物或是不及物用，要特别注意break up 如果拿它来当终止或是制止的意思来解释时，常常是针对像斗殴啊、示威等等的活动。像 break up a fight 就是表达制止争斗、制止打架的意思。第三个，我们可以用 break up 去表达像情侣的分手啊，或是夫妻的离婚分开的意思。好，那这时候它是当不及物用，我们可以用 break up with somebody 来表达和某人分手。例如 Lily broke up with her boyfriend last week。 Lily 上周跟她男朋友分手了。第四个，我们在口语当中可以用 break up 去表达捧腹大笑的意思，这时候就会跟 crack up 意思差不多。例如 The joke always breaks her up， 也可以说 The joke always cracks her up， 那个笑话总是会让她捧腹大笑。好，那么在第二部分的对话里面，米娅跟人在国外念书的 Ethan 视讯通话。Ethan 聊到他现在很适应了，那他是用 settle in 来表达安顿下来、适应新环境的意思。那这个片语就可以表达说，你可能是搬到新的住所并且安顿好，或者是你可能开始适应的新工作、新生活、新的学校等等。那我们也来补充几个跟动词 settle 有关的片语哦。第一个要补充的是 settle down， 它可以表达安静、平静下来，也可以表达成家、定下来。举例来说 I thought Ethan would never settle down and get married。 我还以为 Ethan 他永远都不会定下来，不会结婚呢。好，第二个补充的是 settle on 或者是 settle upon， 可以表达选择、决定，这通常是指经过一番思考后所做的决定哦。例如 They haven't settled on a name for their baby， 他们还没决定宝宝要取什么名字。第三个补充的是 settle for， 它可以表达勉强接受、将就的意思。我们常常用 settle for something 去表达勉强接受某个不是最好、不是最想要的事物。举例来说 All the other rooms were fully booked, So we had to settle for a windowless room. 所有其他的房间都订满了，所以我们只能将就住在没有窗户的房型里了。好，那么以上是今天重点整理，我们回顾今天的单字吧。
Assignment. Tiffany always hands in her assignments one day late. Adjustment. Moving to a new city or country always requires a bit of an adjustment. Audio. Your video isn't working, but your audio is perfectly clear. Graduation. Lawrence got a job at a local law firm after graduation.
Well, everyone, today's article has come to an end, and I sure hope you enjoyed reading along with us. I am Roger.
I'm Helen.
See you next time.